Hello, everyone. This is Independent Conservative. I am Ryan Bowling. Thank you all for joining me. So, the governor of New York City has decided to deploy the National Guard in the subways of New York City. Why? To decrease the craziness in terms of crime and homicides and thefts and assaults and all the rest of this nonsense that's taking place in the city of New York and in the state of New York. She decided to deploy the National Guard. Now, finally, these liberal politicians are starting to see that their policies are not conducive to the safety of the residents. And may we add the fact that New York is a sanctuary state and New York City is a sanctuary city, and that by allowing people who are not supposed to be here, okay, to come here illegally, let me rephrase that, to allow illegals into your state and into your city without vetting them out, not knowing whether or not they're criminals, not knowing whether or not they're terrorists, not knowing whether or not whatever. Don't you think that that might be detrimental to your city and your state overall? Common sense would say yes. And so it seems to me that the governor of the state of New York is starting to see that those policies, or rather their liberal policies, just ain't helping. So I'm going to read you a little bit of this article here from Breitbart News, just a portion of it, because the city of mayors, Eric Adams, says something that makes sense but does not make sense. Okay, and I'm going to show you what I mean by this. So let's get right into this article. Crime, and it's in reference to New York's bail reform law. Okay, New York's bail reform law has helped to, in so many ways, assist, if you will, repeat criminals. And let's read this. Let's get right into this. Felony suspects released without bail, thanks to New York's bail reform law, are more likely to be rearrested for more felonies, including violent crimes, than suspects who were given bail before the law went into effect. Now, people may yick and yak and cry and poot and fart about that, but the reality, history shows that is exactly what ends up happening. Okay, when you have these loosey-goosey bail reform laws, criminals are going to latch hold to that, or people with a criminal mindset are going to latch hold of that and say, oh, well, shoot, hey, I'm not going to have to pay any bill. It's all good. I'll repeat the same. Why should I stop? There are no real penalties. Why stop? Why stop assaulting people? Why stop stealing? Why stop robbing? Why stop killing? Why? There's no penalties. This is what this foolishness about this bail reform law actually does. The article goes on to say, overall, the study found that 47% of New York City suspects previously charged with felonies were rearrested for crimes, including more than 31% of whom were rearrested for felonies, more than 17% rearrested for violent crimes, and almost 4% rearrested for firearm charges. In all three categories, felonies, violent crimes, and firearm charges, felony suspects had a higher rate of rearrest after they were released without bail than those who were arrested and required to post bail before the new law went into effect. Gee, I wonder why. Now watch this. This is what Mayor Adams said. Mayor Adams posted on X, formerly Twitter, Wednesday that, quote, murders are down. The word down is in capital letters, right? I mean, clearly you emphasize that. Shootings are down. Transit crime is down. Car thefts are down. The safest big city in America just got even safer, end quote. Now look, that's all I'm gonna read right there. You guys can read the rest of that article in the description box below if you so desire. But look, man, look, I don't live in New York. Only New Yorkers would know just how bad crime is in the city of New York in particular. Only they would know just how bad crime is in their city. I mean, look, I'm just reading you statistical data, okay? I don't live there. I live in the city of Cleveland, state of Ohio, and the city of Cleveland, okay? And the city of Cleveland stinks in terms of crime. We have one of the highest rates of crime in the state and perhaps in the country, thanks to liberal laws and liberal legislation, but there's another story. I don't live in New York, so I don't live in New York City, so I can't really say, fully from personal experience. But I will say this. I'm going to assume that Mayor Eric Adams made that statement because he doesn't want people who want to visit New York City or maybe even live there be scared to move there, because after all, that's tax revenue for him, for his city. And if people are scared to move there, or people are scared to visit and buy things and so forth to add revenue to his city, then it's going to be a problem. I mean, after all, it's costing his city tons of money just to take care of those illegals, right? So you have to make up some type of statement. You have to say, well, car thefts are down. You have to say murders are down. Hey, maybe it is. I don't know. But I'm going to say this. Based on the information that I have been reading down through the stream of time on articles that I've been doing about the city of New York, it don't seem like what he's saying matches up with what I've been reading about. Now, only those of you New Yorkers would know that, okay? But look, it don't seem to match up, okay? But he has come to the governor of New York has come up with the plan to deploy the National Guard. Now, when you look at that from just a physical perspective, you have to start wondering, okay, man, it doesn't really, it doesn't really look real good to have the National Guards walking around in the subways. It almost looks like, and I'm just going to be real with you, I can imagine it almost looks like some kind of third world country run by communists or so forth, which is what a lot of these communists want that have infiltrated our government want anyway, right? They want martial law so they can, whatever. But that's what it's going to look like, right? And then the article talks about, in the midst of bringing in the National Guards, the governor also wants to bring in a significant amount of mental health workers to help people who may be mentally ill. Now, on the subways right now, mental illness is a serious problem. It is a serious issue. I've dealt with and deal with mentally ill people all the time where I work. I mean, these people are messed up. How they get that way, I don't know. It could be drugs, it could be abuse, I don't know, or a combination of both. But I deal with mentally ill people quite often, and sometimes and I deal with suicidal people quite often, and sometimes I have to get in contact with my dispatcher, who gets in contact with the crisis intervention teams and the police, who come down to address the situation. So I know from personal experience about mental illness, because I deal with it all the time where I work as a security officer at Tower City. But my question is this? I mean, when you bring these doctors that deal with mental illness, when you bring these mental ill specialists down at but you know what I mean, right? When you bring these type of people down there, is that really going to help? I don't know if it's going to really help, because at the end of the day, and I'm just going to say this up front, a lot of these people that are committing these crimes are not mentally ill, okay? A lot of these people that are committing these crimes are not mentally ill. They know fully what they're doing. Most of the people that's committing the crimes in New York, and I'm going to make this assumption, Most of the people that are committing these crimes, thefts and robberies and murders in New York, as well as the city of Cleveland and other cities, are not mentally ill. So you don't need a mental health worker, if you will, to come and assist them. They're not mentally ill. A lot of these people are perfectly capable of understanding what they're doing. What is needed is penalties and consequences for what they do. And in the city of New York, and in the state of New York, in the city of Cleveland, and the state of Ohio, and other liberal-run cities, it's about high time these liberals and these do-nothing Republicans see that this is what needs to be done. Consequences. When you don't have consequences, you're going to have chaos. So the whole idea of bringing mental health workers, I said mentally ill, but mental health workers to the scenario may help in certain circumstances, okay, if you're dealing with and you're sure you're dealing with mentally ill people. But a significant amount of the time, you're not dealing with mentally ill people. You're dealing with people whose cognitive abilities are strong, okay, and they know what they're doing. But they know they're not going to suffer any real consequences, especially with this bail reform law. People do what they do because they can do it. People do what they do because they can get away with it. That's why we have high crime. That's why crime is on the rise, in my opinion. Crime is on the rise because there are no penalties. Crime is not on the rise because of poverty. That's bull crap coming from the left. That's a bunch of bull crap the left been spending for decades. And they're finding out it ain't working, which is why the governor of New York sees the need to employ freaking National Guard. Why? Why are you doing that? Why? Because of the mentally ill? The mentally ill just so crazy. They're just coming out there just assaulting people and killing people and spitting on people and vomiting it on people. No. That's not what it is, boo-boo. It's not what it is. It's your screwed up laws. You put right laws, you put the laws in place that penalize crime, you probably are going to see a drop in it. And that has happened in the past in the city of New York. In the past, many years ago, I forget that I think it was either the mayor or the governor, DiBaggio or something like that. I know you guys probably remember this person, where crime went down. But I think this mayor or this governor was a Republican. Now, some of these Republicans I don't agree with, okay? But does seem to be a difference oftentimes in the way they see crime and criminals. And apparently he initiated penalties for the crimes they committed, and crime went down significantly. That's history. That's not my opinion. That's a fact in the city of New York. But people start crying and complaining. The radicals and the activists start crying and complaining and said he was focusing on poor black people, and it all changed. And now we're right back where we were before. It is what it is, folks. Look, at the end of the day, I hope and pray that this is not always the case, that we have to deploy the National Guard to deal with this problem of high crime. I think the issue is create laws that penalize criminals. Create laws that penalize criminals. Let me say this before I close on this video. And I don't want to sound like I'm preaching, but the Bible, to me, one of the reasons why I believe the Bible is because everything it says I see before me. People are doing. It's right in my face. The New Testament book of Romans 13 chapter, the Apostle Paul talked about how Christians are to respect the government. And he talks about, and I'm paraphrasing his words, that we are to pay our taxes, we're to do the things we're supposed to do in government, and submit to their leadership. Then he mentions about that the government is not a terror to those who do good, but those who do evil. In other words, the government should not be feared by those, generally speaking, by those who do the right thing and keep the law. The government should be feared by those who break the law. Why should the government be feared by why should people who are breaking the law fear the government? Because there will be penalties for what they do if they break the law. But those who are doing good and doing the right thing and upholding the law, if they're righteous laws, okay, shouldn't have nothing to fear. What do we see the same scenario here? We're seeing the same scenario all over this country. What is happening is that it's the lawmaker, it's the lawful people who are fearing the government, and the lawbreakers who are not fearing the government. It's a reversal of what ought to be, and it shouldn't be that way. But that's what I had to say about this. Hey, what do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all. See you again.